Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, our Acre Refugees podcast. Ted here, John here. Seeing those pictures of Audi Field reminds me that I will be making my triumphant return to Audi Field on Saturday. I'm very, very excited. John, how are you doing, my friend? Are you ready for Saturday? Are you going up to the game? I
We'll
can't remember
see.
if you
We'll
are now.
see. It's in the hands of people who make decisions that I can't influence. So potentially, maybe not. We'll see.
You gotta just tell them you gotta have a dad like me who's a soccer fan, so you can just use that. Oh, here's your Father's Day gift. We're gonna go for a game.
I could do that. Instead, I will just use this podcast to. They know who they are. Let me in. I am the meme. I am shaking it. I'm shaking the gate. I'm the what's his name? Eric Andre. That's me. Let me.
Eric Andre. Exactly. So yeah, how was your weekend, man? Did you partake in the smorgasbord of soccer that we had on our hands?
Oh, quite. Yes, indeed. I have been. I think I said in the last show that I'm going to be watching soccer every single second of every single day. That's not been too far off, aside from doing my job and whatnot. But other than that, as you can see, I'm actually podcasting and watching soccer. Technically, kind of.
Yes, you got Bolivia and Paraguay up there.
Yes. So just a quick aside, John's betting corner, because I can't resist. Yesterday, I had a 3-team parlay, picked all the winners, won money, good money. Today, the biggest mistake John Hoffman makes betting is that when he wins, he thinks he's smart and then immediately bets. It's not that you got lucky, it's that you're smart and that you're very good. So I made another bet today and I got all 3 results wrong. Not even one right. I got all of them wrong. Don't ask me why I picked Scotland to win. I think Poland's a reasonable pick. Spain is a reasonable pick, but
yes,
both wrong.
Man, talk about we get that. I think this week this tournament is definitely going on an uphill. I feel like it started out very kind of middling. There were some interesting games, some blowouts, and then it was like we got Netherlands versus Ukraine, and it was like suddenly it's just gone up from there.
We had a guy almost die. Well, technically did die on the field and then became undead. So there lots of things happened. This is the tournament. This is a noteworthy tournament.
We'll get to that. Yes, I was not including that in my list.
But it happened. I'm just saying notable information, things that happened.
It did happen. We'll get into that a little bit. But we are a U.S.-centered, U.S.-focused podcast.
Even on top of that. But we'll have to expand on these weeks.
Yeah, we got to expand up. So we of course in the international break, DC United returned to the field on Saturday. We will not have a team preview. Instead, we'll have an interview with Moses Nyman coming up next week. I think we're, as much as we appreciate our guests, I don't think there's much really to expand upon when you play the same team twice in the same week. So go back and listen to the other show.
Go to rfkrefugees.com. There will be a write-up on there. I am reasonably certain of a preview, but I think you're right. I don't think we need to have a full. It's like last time, but we want 3 points bet at home. That's the big difference. Everything else is the same. They probably will play this. They'll probably not play the formation they played last time. They'll probably play the formation they played every other game except until that one. I think that's probably the way they'll start.
Yeah. So we'll go in chronological order. Obviously, we already reviewed the USA-Mexico Nations League win for the United States over that. We then had, of course, a friendly game that sort of came up, U.S. versus Costa Rica. A 4-0 win and kind of I think there are a lot of people out there that were like, oh wow, Costa Rica's back. I think their coach got fired after this game, right? He was let go pretty soon after this game. Yeah. So I think it was after this game or right around this game, he was let go. So a team that I think suffered a disappointing Nations League. I think they, came inches away. So obviously, things are down, but I think it was an opportunity for a couple of players, Gerald Dike, Yunus Musa, both looked really good in this game. And they were kind of the players that were the talk of, I guess, the late talk of the summer. Obviously, Yunus Musa making the decision to join the United States over England, I believe. So that was a big deal, and he did not make an appearance in the Nations League.
And the reason behind that came out after the fact is that after he signed his extension, does he play for Valencia? Is that who he plays for in Spain? Yes. He basically sucked. So he signed his extension, and then the coach was like, "Oh, you're bad now. What happened? Did you break?" And then he played, I think, maybe 8 or 9 games after he signed his extension early on in the season. So that's part of why he did not play. But he got an opportunity to play in the friendly and did well. I think that he's obviously a part of the plan. It's not going to be one of those players they cap once and then throw in the truck.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are kind of freaking out, I guess, a little bit. Everybody's like, "Fair, why haven't we capped him yet? We need to cap him. We should have him out there. He should be capped." Everybody take a chill pill, relax. It's okay. He will get. I guarantee you in one of these either Gold Cup or if he does play for the Gold Cup, there's a lot of controversy about who's going to play there. I think Gio Reyna's out for the Gold Cup, but we got Gold Cup, we got World Cup qualifiers. I would hedge a good bet that he will make at least an appearance out there for one of those games, especially when you've got 3 games. I think there was, of course, a lot of we had Zach Steffen go down. I think that played a role in it. Maybe he makes an appearance if that doesn't happen.
He's not
DLD
seriously injured, right? Did that came out that he was not? It wasn't a big serious injury for him.
I hadn't gotten an update yet. I hadn't heard an update.
I think it was not. I think it was
would
not a
trust your
tear of
judgment on
anything. Yeah, I mean, trust my thinking that I saw something on Twitter. That is the extent. So if anybody in the chat has a Zach Steffen injury update news that's accurate, instead of me just feeling like I heard something, that's fine to do. Please feel free to give us that.
Yep, maybe a producer will bone bruise. Producer says bone
There you
bruise.
go.
Yeah, that's not
Not a tear.
serious. Yes, very good. Considering how that looked, I think that's very good. But I do want to, of course, make a mention. Daryl DK, former University of Virginia player, so I got to bring that up. So he's over here about an hour away right now with me in Lynchburg. So
Daryl DK, as tall as Taylor Korniak. So we'd say it that direction, the other direction. So that's he scored a goal.
yes,
He
did.
I think we talked about this offline or sort of not on the show, but like I feel like he's a strong bet to unseat Josh Sargent.
Yeah,
as the star. I mean, he's obviously got to keep playing. He's got to continue to perform and be firing on all cylinders for the Gold Cup. But I think if he goes and has a good tournament, Josh Sargent has to overcome him, no matter where he's playing.
And it's really not about where Josh Sargent plays versus where Dylan DK plays. And I feel like there are the U.S. soccer fan Euro snobs, and that's what I'm going to call them. They are Euro snobs who feel that just by being a part of a European team, that means you're a better choice than the. By the way, speaking of Livy, I just remembered something that I did not have in my rundown, and I'm kicking myself for it. We're going to get to that in a moment. Definitely going to get to that.
What a tease!
Yes, what it is. I think you should be able to guess what it is.
I don't know.
Anyway, oh come on,
bone bruises.
When I say it, you're going to be
okay.
Anyway, back to what I was saying. Gerald DK. He is right now. He is on fire. He looks like a guy who is a striker, and I think that's where he's been playing. So I think he was able to step in and be very comfortable. It's really not about who's playing; it's about who looks the best. And Gerald DK is probably going to be playing in Europe. I would guess maybe within a year. I'm going to say that's a pretty safe bet. He'll be in Europe. If you're listening and you somehow think that just because you're on a European roster, you should be an automatic starter. I've seen some of those ideas and thoughts. Let me tell you that's a completely farcical belief. You should have the best players out there. It's not about having it's not about having the best players, but having the right players. And if you have one player that has clearly had a better season and another player who did, I don't think anybody complained about how he looked for Werder Bremen, but they did go down. They were relegated. So I think that's something that should take into account. Not to say Josh Sargent can't retake that position and show the talent that he has, but
he better score a butt ton of goals in 2 Bundesliga. Then that's what I would have to say about that.
You better light that league up. Yeah, that's just basically. I think that was a running joke last year when they were like 17th and they had to play in the playoffs. I think Matt Doyle was like, "Oh man, he's gonna light up Bundesliga too." So
who's your boy on Hertha Berlin, or was it Hertha or the American?
Oh, Matthew Hoppe.
He's rumored to be being sniffed about by a whole bunch of teams.
As he should. He should get the heck out of Schalke, and Schalke should be willing to sell him because they are going to need to get every penny they can get with their team going down.
I am sure that they will.
Situation.
Yes. Some Bundesliga teams, other European clubs. I'm trying to see if there's any specific names. There's not. So he's being looked at. Italy also. Yes. So yeah, he'll be gone.
Probably the only player on Schalke who's getting looked at this point.
Probably.
But I'll be curious, and I'll be curious to see if Hoppe maybe makes an appearance at the Gold Cup. I think that could be a good chance for him maybe to get
his second cap. He's already been capped once. It'll be his second appearance if he does that.
Yeah. All right,
do we have?
go ahead.
I'm doing the rundown. We don't have Gold Cup roster selection here. Let's talk quickly about sort of the DC United element of what a Gold Cup roster could look like. Do we think Paul Arriola makes an appearance, depending on obviously form and health?
Yes.
I think if you looked at the players on the field in his position in those games, I think you saw that his skill set could have helped the team. They did fine, obviously. Clearly, they won their games, but from my mind, I think that he played better than the players that were in his position. What do you think?
I think we'll definitely see him out there. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't. I think you're going to see some European players that are not going to be there. I think it's going to be more important for them to be with their club teams, getting minutes. A player like Christian Pulisic, I think you use this Gold Cup as an opportunity. Yes, it's a trophy to win, but you need to build out depth. You need to see who you're going to have. You're talking about World Cup qualifying being three games essentially, a cycle. That's usually it's just two. That's going to be an extensive amount of traveling, extensive amount of games. So you're going to need a full roster. So I think it's an opportunity to build depth. Honestly,
I'm fine leaving Christian at home. I feel like Chelsea are going to have 100 billion games. So if he gets a little bit of a break this summer, I would not be opposed to that.
Yeah, and I think after what we just saw in Euro, there's going to be some discussion about the amount of games that we put players through. Not that we know whether it had any impact on it, but I think it's certainly going to be a conversation that's going to be had. I don't know if there are any other players that we would expect from DC other than Paul. I don't. Maybe Bill. Maybe. I don't know if he made the preliminary roster.
I think he might be a little hosed by his injury here. I think he had his call in. He had an appearance. I honestly almost feel like that call in and appearance was sort of like a mea culpa for how he got sort of passed over in the prior regime, but not saying like you're our future. Like I think that there are enough guys at his age now. He's older now. He's 27, 28. I'm not sure. Like
still
certainly for a goalie, he's got another roll through. But as far as like you look at players in the international, particularly goalies, like in age brackets, you've got like your young developing players that you're thinking, 5-7 years down the line, you want to get them in camp. Your Marcinkowskis, for instance, like those players that you play the under 20 level. Bill is in the has to be at like peak prime. Like if you're at your peak prime playing in a good place, you're going to start.
If Bill was out there starting for a European club, he would probably be pretty close to the
I think that's true.
And I think he certainly has that ability. I just think right now you're looking at this team also starting over. And I think right now with what Ethan Horvath showed, that even kind of really sealed the deal as far as I think where he is. And
that was a shovel of dirt. That was a shovel of dirt on top of Bill, I think, unfortunately. You talk about Bill's ability to play internationally or play, in Europe as a starter. I almost would kind of like to see him do that one more time. I feel like he's still young enough now. I would like him to have a good full season of healthy soccer here. I don't want to lose him. I think from a perspective, we talked about how bad this team is without him in net. But you got to plan. You got to plan for the future anyway. You got to start figuring out what the plan B is going to be. If he were to test himself as like a fan perspective, I think that would be exciting for me to see him because his first experience went horribly, and I think he pulled the shoot on it very quickly when he saw that he was not the manager's favorite, and he had two guys in front of him that were playing. So that's just an aside. I think that Bill, unless he really, really does not want to leave again, and if he's fully content for life not doing it, then awesome. We'll take him for as long as he wants to play. We'll take him till he's 37.
I mean, in theory, in DC, I would say we've got a good 5-6 years. That's goalkeepers can last a lot longer. At least that's 5 or 6 years. At least he can go certainly much longer
of his prime. I'm saying, right?
Of his prime. Yeah. We're basically in his prime right now. So, and I think if you look at the project that DC is trying to build here, I would say, unless you get an offer, unless he just lights it up over the next couple of years, and you get an offer that's just too good to pass up, obviously take.
That's a good scenario. Yeah, honestly.
Yeah. If another team comes calling, hey, we need a goalkeeper, do you want to come? Here we'll pay you. DC gets a transfer fee. Go, absolutely, my friend. Go chase that dream.
And if there's a fee, he'll play.
Right now, if I'm Bill, I have DC right in front of me. I have a new coach. I have a exciting style of play that's being developed here, something new, something different. See how much you can get out of 2 to 3 years here, and maybe that ends in a trophy, an Open Cup, maybe an MLS Cup run. Who knows?
He wants that clearly. The most DC United fan to play for DC United since, I'd say Ben Olsen's got a little bit of that too, but Bill is like a grew up in the stands player. They don't get those, and you got to hold on to those honestly for as long as you can. But I was just saying, I think that if someone made an offer and they were going to start him and he was going to get a chance to play in a major league in Europe, I would love to see how he does in it. But if he doesn't and wants to stay forever, vamos, fantastic.
Love it. He has in my opinion, if his career were to stop right now, I think he still makes like a Hall of Tradition. I don't think there's any.
I think that's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of which, let's go to the U.S. Women's National Team. Let's shift gears a little bit. They had 2 exhibition games since we last reported: a 1-0 win over Portugal and a 4-0 win over Jamaica. I think the 1-0 win over Portugal, I think probably maybe we learned a little bit more about the team. They certainly dominated possession, dominated shots, but Portugal was basically saying, "Here, you have the ball. See if you can beat us." And Portugal did a really good job holding the U.S. until the 76th minute. With the same U.S. goal off a corner kick, off a set piece. Certainly not, and I think the expectations are obviously different. I made a joke on the Twitter account, and I'm like, oh, this is where we talk about tearing down the whole team, and we, talk about the coach being fired, right? That's how this works, right? And some people point out, well, it's the U.S. women's team, the best team. And I said, yes, that's the point I'm trying to make is let's not lose ourselves over one game. And they go up against Jamaica and get a 4-0 dominating win. Before we get that, we had Kelly O'Hara and Emily Sonnet both played in the Portugal game. Andy Sullivan did not make an appearance in that game. She did make an appearance in the next one. So anything you want to drop about that game?
Yeah, I think the thing that most people noted about that game is that it appears that the roster is set for the Olympics based on lineup choices. O'Hara is going to start. She's the starting, probably right. She plays right back for the US, right? Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Yes,
she's going to start. Andy will be with the Spirit. Unfortunately, they're very deep in defensive midfield space. When there was we're going to get to this game in a second, but when there was an opportunity to make a sub early, when Rose Lavelle was unfortunately injured once again, they didn't go with Sullivan. And I think, I would love to see her in that context. I would love to see her playing with those extremely talented players around her, with her range of passing and her ability to win the ball. But I don't think it's going to happen. It just doesn't seem like it. Seems very Bill Hamid-esque in that it's a player for a position that is very deep. But I think that if given the chance, she would excel. I just don't know if it's going to happen. But that from that perspective, from that game, I don't really have much else to say. I think, like you said, it was Portugal parked the bus, and they were having a very challenging time getting past it. Kudos to Portugal for them. That's a great result. Losing by one to the best team in the world, and sort of the tactical discipline that they displayed to get there. I think there's a lot of people that, and I used to feel this way too, like think that parking the bus is not necessarily the coward's way out, but on sporting and not really indicative of really skill or talent. But as I've grown in the game and sort of been a fan for longer, like I've definitely done, I understand that not every team can park the bus. Otherwise all bad teams would park the bus and they would not lose by multiple goals ever. It was a good performance by them, by Portugal, but
you do what it takes to win. I think as a DC fan, we watched.
Right, we know about that.
we watched 2014, 2015 DC win ugly, but they were still winning games, and winning games is still fun, regardless of how it happens. I'm sorry, it just is. And getting performances, like you look at the Sweden game, the Spain game, that was an excellent game, and Sweden was parking the bus. So you can still. Yep. I'm sure Spain fans would disagree, but you can still find joy as a neutral, I think, at some of those cases. We should also mention in Jamaica, Sydney Schneider, Washington Spirit draft pick, played for Jamaica. And I thought she actually looked, considering what she was up against, I don't think you really can point to any of the goals as her fault. It was just, she was overrun.
The first minute, literally.
From the first minute. Emily Sonnet, both played. Emily Sonnet and Sullivan obviously subbed in that game, as we mentioned before, just as dominating. I think that was kind of like, okay, that's the return to form. That's the okay, yeah, we're gonna. They're fine. That was the hey, we're all fine, people. Just
Right.
relax.
Right. Schneider got a ball in the face from about 3 feet and then bounced her head off the turf and stayed in the game. So hopefully she's okay.
Yeah.
It is a I had a conversation with Jason Anderson about this, that it is an unforgiving or an unrewarding role to be a backup goalie behind Aubrey Bledsoe, because you don't play. You never, ever, ever play. You will not play. She doesn't take games off. She really isn't in the U.S. picture as much anymore, so she's just going to start every game. So the international is your opportunity to get reps. And unfortunately for her, she was behind the 8 ball from the start. But yeah, Roosevelt hurt her ankle, rolled it, sort of a non-contact roll. Seemed like she could have stayed in, but it was it's a friendly and not the time to do that. But cursed Roosevelt. I think ankle too is a problem she's had before. I have weak ankles too. I don't know if hers she has stretched ligaments or something from having it rolled it a million times, but you feel for her. You hopefully it doesn't seem. I mean, it's not like a long-term time on the sidelines, but like these sort of repetitive small injuries. I mean, Spirit fans know this is what keeps her off the field.
I think and I think we're going to see minutes limitations coming for Rain.
Take that, Rain.
Some of those are going to be coming up for Rose Lavelle, so you get to experience that, and maybe a argument for why Washington Spirit felt they needed to kind of move on. As talented as she is, their U.S. Soccer puts her on ice. When they put her on ice, she is on ice, for lack of a better word. Loudoun United, quickly want to touch on them real quick. They are bottom of their conference table. I don't know how they're organized. I have to look at how USL's organized. But I know they are. They are bottom. They are bottom of the
league, probably.
Yeah, probably bottom of the league. But they're bottom of the Eastern Conference Atlantic. So they're in the Atlantic division of the Eastern Conference.
Does anyone have less than 3 points in the all of USL's championship?
No.
My bet is no.
They are bottom. I did, sit down and watch both games. I watched both the Tampa Bay game and the Charleston game. I think the Charleston game was probably the best they've looked all season from an attacking perspective, and yet they still couldn't find the back of the net. And I think that is I think this team last year, this team was just it was COVID 2020. It was just bad. Like they were just like every game they were just getting blown out week in, week out. Hartford Athletic was dropping 4 or 5 goals on them. This season they're competitive, but they're still not good. I think it did sort of feel like watching some 2013 DC United games where you're like, you can see something here, but it's just not good enough. It's a step behind everything else. So
and their weak spots are similar to DC United. Like there are chances being created throughout the midfield, no finishing, and not enough finishing. And the back line has, a few games aside, mostly it's just like lacking concentration, a few mistakes, a few small seconds where they concede. If a team were if this team were not affiliated with DC United and was trying to make it on their own and had to spend money, they would spend more money on that back line. Like they would shore that up. And they would figure out, they would probably sign a Dane Kelly-esque player, a USL standard goal scorer, pay him, I don't know, like $120,000 or whatever it takes to sign Dane Kelly at this point. It's unfortunate. There are some bright spots. There are players that Jeremy Garay is getting a lot of national attention whenever you sort of look into Loudoun. That's the player that people are talking about because of his chances created. And people are looking at him as a long-term option for DC United in a position of not need. At least currently, he's young though, so time is long. But Ted Kudibietro is a player I think you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. He I thought he has a couple runs that the finished product's not there yet, but I think I'm seeing a little bit more from him. He looks more like I think before it was very clearly a kid trying to play with professionals. And this time he actually looks like more of a seasoned professional. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful we're going to see some more out of him this year. I think he's going to be kind of the player. When I sit down to watch games, I'm probably going to want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, he's not getting bodied as much. He's not getting his body as much. He's staying on the field. He's not getting hurt. He had a lot of durability problems in this previous time on the field. So, rough year again for Ryan Martin. I feel like he's consistently sort of battling the same battles with Loudon. But as long as there's progress being made, I think that's always the metric. They want to say, I think we had a couple Loudon players on the show before the season. Like, our goal is to make the playoffs. Like, probably not going to happen, but just continue to make progress. I think chances created is a metric that I would care about, and then individual performances improving throughout the year. At least players that you care about, that you think are part of the long term for Loudon or for DC.
Yep. And all right, so I want to move on. Turn the page on Loudon. Say the thing I wanted to talk about. Jaime Moreno.
Oh, how did I not
elected? Yeah, I know. I knew you were going to say that. I finally elected to the U.S. Soccer Hall of Fame.
They heard you, Ted. I think this is one man's prayer answered here. Ted yes. Myers, one man crusade.
First things. Well, it's me and Jason Anderson. Let's be clear. Jason Anderson's been pushed too, and I think a lot of other people. There's a lot of other media that were like, finally. A lot of news with the U.S. Soccer Hall of Fame. Obviously, the rules have been tweaked a little bit. Hope Solo not making the Hall of Fame. As much as we know of Hope Solo's personal,
she's got to be in there too.
Yeah, she has to be in there. She is one of the best goalkeepers ever to play for the U.S. She has won several trophies, several championships. She deserves to be in that Hall of Fame. So I think next season she will get there. I think eventually it's time heals. Eventually people are going to make enough of a thing about it. But the biggest thing about for me is seeing Jaime Moreno in there, because I hope this opens the door for players who either play for national teams or who maybe were U.S. players but maybe just could never really find that place in the U.S. national team, but put forward really, really incredible MLS careers. And those players deserve to be honored. They are just as much as being part of the U.S. Soccer Hall of Fame. Marco Echeverri finished second behind Jaime Moreno in that award, so I think we'll expect him in that Hall of Fame next year. Obviously, the veterans category, for whatever reason, only lets one in. I think that's a little silly. I'm not really sure why, but basically, if you look at the voting, both Jaime Moreno and Marco Echeverri got 23 of the 24 votes. I really want to find out who that one person who didn't vote for them was, so I can accost them publicly. So reveal yourself. And then I think Jaime Moreno got like most first choice votes or something like that. So that's why he got in. But awesome to see. I mean, I don't need anyone listening to the show knows how great Jaime is.
Yep.
And I think this is something that should happen. I'm very glad. My biggest fear is that he's going to like go into like some other category. Oh, he's a veterans category. Oh, it doesn't. But no, they treated it like he was a Hall of Famer, and that was really cool to see. And at the end of the day, probably doesn't matter how he gets in, just that he gets in. And
he was excited about it. I think that was obvious. DC United tricked him to coming to Audi Field. I don't remember what the pretext was, but apparently it was a trick. And then Ben Olsen there met him. I think it was to do a photo shoot, and then it was like, "Hey, surprise! You're in the Hall of Fame." And you could tell he was. You could tell he was. I mean, he's had a rough year. The man has lost his eye in the last year playing golf, which is just incredibly unlucky, just insanely unlucky. So rough year, but. This is, I think this is something he's been wanting. I think it's validation. I think too, when you're a player, particularly in the American soccer space, like you stop playing, you sort of disappear. You don't really exist anymore. I think some teams do a better job of honoring those players and keeping them involved. I don't know if there's money involved or whatever, but just like keeping them in the social media, keeping them around the stadium. And some teams do less of a good job, and DC United is working on getting better at that. That previously that was maybe, I think it's a reaction to leaning on their history too hard. I think people gave them that criticism, and I think that they backed away because of that. But I think that they're working on rectifying that. But all that said, players are used to, I imagine they're used to being in the spotlight. They're used to having their life sort of revolve around being looked at and being watched, and then they go away. And then it takes a long time. Some players that's it, and they just go and do the next thing. Clyde Sims goes and starts a spinning franchise in Boston. But this is an opportunity basically for him to get revalidated, get that adoration back on him, make him feel good, particularly at the end of a rough year. He's a legend. There should be a statue of him. We're all, Ted's happy because this has been a injustice that he has been long wanting to see rectified. I thought the Hall of Fame was stupid, but now it's less stupid. Now I like it more because they put the right people in.
Well, I understand people say, oh, it's the popularity. We had Dusty Marion on too, and I asked him, oh, it's the popularity contest. Who cares? But it matters in a sense of recognizing history of American soccer, and I feel like not having players like Moreno in there, players like Echeverry, Valderrama, Taylor Twellman, even as a player. I know there's some controversy with him as a broadcaster.
He should absolutely be in there for his career.
Yeah, for his playing career, absolutely, 100%.
There are young kids. I just want to say quickly, there are young kids that only know him from being an announcer. Like there are a lot of many of our listeners. It's true. No, man, get used to this. It's only going to get worse. For those of you who are too young to know, that man scored some bangers. He had a run in his career where I think he finished around 90 something goals. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I remember he's in the top 10 for goals scored, and he scored quality goals. Then concussions obviously ruined his career and sort of put his life a little bit there in jeopardy. But he was a player that was being pursued. Preston North End was the club that was pursuing him. I don't think Preston was in the Premier League at the time. I think they were in the Championship. But just, if all you know him is from What Are We Doing and yelling and being a personality on Twitter, he also was very, very good. In case you don't know. Yeah. I don't know why I'm defending Taylor Twellman on a DC United show, but he's good.
174 appearances, 101 goals.
That's
for
great.
England. I'm not sure how many of those are MLS. Some of them, might be smothered, but yes. I mean, he deserves to be in that. Hall of Fame. There's so many players. I mean, that have been, I feel, left out. Jeff Cunningham, another one who held the all-time goal scoring record in MLS. So many people from that early history that are kind of being faded away, and that for me is really sad. From a perspective of, I get you want to talk about your new teams, your new history, but don't forget where you came from. I was actually very happy to see the even though the DC one was disappointing to me, the retro stuff come out, because I feel like it was more of a recognition of, hey, there's history here, there's cool history here. You should check it out. And I hope eventually there's more sort of content like that.
Ted, I have bad news for you. For you. The desire to see retro stuff from your childhood, or retro stuff, like that is extreme getting old man stuff right there. Like I also was excited. Just got to lean into it all the way. Just dip your shoulder and know that it's coming. Yeah, I like to tease you because I'm still, I think, 5 or 6 years older than you, so I know it's coming. It all falls apart.
It's all coming. But congrats again, Jaime Moreno. I'm telling DC, please do an honoring at this event. It would be perfect for me. Have him out there if he can make it. If he's got all this stuff to do, I get it. But
do it for Ted.
If I hear that announcement, that'd be nice. Let's talk Euro 2020 Copa America.
Yes.
Let's start where I think we should start, which is Christian Eriksen. Extremely glad he is healthy or safe, stabilized. Not that was. I was out actually. I went to brunch with my wife, and the game was on the TV. I was like, oh, cool, I can watch the game. And I didn't really know what was going on. I think I even posted a picture about, hey, I'm watching, join brunch, we're watching Euro. And literally that was going on. That was going on while I was happening. We're trying to figure out what's going on. And incredibly scary moment. We can talk a lot about how the media there was a lot of stuff going on. I think 2DN USA was posting, video of said incident where Christian Eriksen collapsed. In my opinion, they shouldn't have been running that as much as they did, or at least take it down. I don't think we needed to see any of that. There was also talk, just the whole thing was surreal, I think, to watch. And I don't know if ESPN should have shown it. I don't know if were you watching the game live, or were
Not
you?
live. No, I saw it. I saw it on social. Was the way I saw it.
Yeah, well, basically, they hung around the stadium way too long. UEFA, of course, it continues to be a heartless organization. Put out a statement that, oh, both teams agreed they wanted to come out and finish the game. Well, you gave Denmark three choices. You said play today, play tomorrow, or forfeit 3-0. Those are your three options. Not let's work with this. Not, oh my goodness, you guys just watch one of your players almost die. Let's figure something out. We can figure this out. So not. I think I'm surprised that's not maybe getting. I think there's been a couple statements. I'm surprised it's not getting as much criticism. But maybe we're just at this point where it's so expected. I don't know. I don't know at this point.
I think the players are so hyper competitive that they're never going to come out with any statement after the fact saying that I haven't seen it yet. That's saying that they were not ready to play, or that they were. They're never going to admit that. That's just the way they're wired, I think. So it would have been nice if it was taken out of their hands and rescheduled. I'm not surprised. I think that there wasn't. I don't think there wasn't necessarily like, this has happened before. Players have died on the field.
Mm-hmm.
There have been. Somebody brought it up might have been on our Discord, which you guys should join. I was talking about how this could have been Alhaji Kamara, a short time, a one year DC United player who originally had to stop playing in Europe because of a heart. I don't know if it was a defect, but sort of had the same problem. He got a doctor to clear him in the United States, and then he played 1 year without sort of any issue. And now I think he's playing in Saudi Arabia or something. But I think that I don't think anyone knew how to react to it. I think TV will never cut away. That like that that's just not, that's counter to everything that they are. Like they're, but
I think it got to a point though where it was very. I mean, I can understand maybe someone hanging on for too long. What do they do? Maybe they don't have people at the studio. They got to scramble. Eventually, though, I think you need to make the move of saying, get two guys in the studio. Let's cut away from this. Let's see what's going on. We'll kind of shift in and out a little bit. But just, I mean, seeing his partner, I'm not sure if it's wife or girlfriend, crying on the field. I mean, that was almost, I think, a little bit too much. And hats. I mean, we have to talk about the good things. Hats off to the Denmark players. I think one of the captain or the defender literally rushed over, opened an airway, provided that sort of emergency care.
Started mouth to mouth, started CPR.
Yeah, started CPR. They, of course, brought the medical team on. I think there was also a lot of criticism, sort of the medical team, like, oh, where's the ambulance? Why didn't they do it? And I think there was a lot. These people, they know what they're doing. They're out here. There's been a lot of changes in years. This has happened. Like I said, this has happened before. This is not the first time this has happened on a soccer field, and there have been a lot of changes. And I think this was more of a recognition that this worked. That when something like this happens, that if it's responded to correctly, you can literally save someone's life.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and we saw it there. I think I was all prepared when they were wheeling. When they were wheeling him out, they had him covered around. Like, oh my God, he's gone. Like, I don't. Why else would you do that? Obviously it was to protect his privacy, which I get, but I literally thought he was gone. And then to see that he was alive was, I think it certainly added a relief. I think the whole tournament would have been. I don't know how you continue the tournament if he isn't alive. And the response, I think, from the players, people, his teammates who played in other games, has been incredible. So those are all good things that happened.
Yeah, Romelu Lukaku's celebration into the camera was awesome. After he scored, that was very cool. Teammates in on.
Yeah, but Gregory brings up, isn't ESPN using UEFA feed? Exactly. Well, I mean, so I'm mad at UEFA for staying on it that long. But ESPN also can control and probably say, hey, we're going to cut to our studio. Let's cut to our studio. We'll have someone watch it, see what's going on. But we don't need to see some of this, especially a guy being basically resuscitated on live TV. Great
comments here, and I think it's good to say from just a public service thing, and also as a guy whose job it is to lobby for epinephrine auto-injector availability. Greg says Ericsson was saved because there was a defibrillator available. If someone goes into cardiac arrest and is defibrillated within 3 minutes, they have a 70% chance of survival. Otherwise, the chance of survival is 3%. There need to be defibrillators in every building in the country. I agree. And next to them, an epinephrine auto-injector. Now I'm off the clock.
And that's someone, and that's something, that when I take referee training, they actually talk about that, about the need to have that, and they go through some early training for that. I'm actually now wondering, is that available when I go out to some of these fields? Is that available? If something were to happen to me, or if something were to happen to a player or somebody else. I hope there is. So yeah, glad Christian Eriksen's doing okay. Hopefully, he can continue to play the sport that he loves. And we wish all the best to him and his family. All right, moving on. Let's talk about. I want to touch on some little things about the tournament. Obviously, Frank de Boer, MLS reject Frank de Boer, coaching the Netherlands, following up like nobody else. A lot of talks about his tactics and everything else in this game, and it seems like his team kind of overcame the his tactics in a thrilling 3-2 win over Ukraine. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that game. I was kind of half working and half watching, but that was a pretty fun game.
That was the game. So that was the decider game for my parlay. So I was driving home from Costco and I looked at my phone. It was like 2-0. I was like, baby, we did it. I'm about to clear almost $100. And then I get home, I sit down on the couch, 1 goal. I was like, all right, well, that makes it interesting, but it's only 50. Oh, another goal, 2. How could they do this to me? And then the goal, and then they win the game in I think like the 89th minute.
Yeah,
it was a wild game. From my understanding, I missed the first half. Like they took off Daley Blind because they were such in control. Like there were no problems at all, and then it slipped away. So I think that this is another, hard to say off the bat, but is this another team that is going to be held back by its manager in a national tournament? The talent on the field is in fact, good enough to play and win, but the way it gets set up and the changes that get made, do they put the team at a disadvantage? We shall see.
Bad coaches can do well in international tournaments. These things are sprints. Expected goals, I think, can be thrown out pretty much. And I think the Czech Republic Scotland game is a perfect example of that, because Scotland had a 1.84 expected goals, and I believe Czech Republic had a 0.4. I guess a half-field volley goal from Patrick Schick. I'm totally butchering the name. Patrick, I think it's Schick or Stick. I want to make sure I get that right. But John is just going completely like.
No, I don't know his name. I don't know his name. I saw the goal.
I wrote it down. I'm having trouble with some of these Czech pronunciations.
Listen, all of our Czech fans have to give us some grace here. Ted is going to go to Prague next month to work on his pronunciation and names. I think it may be goal of the tournament, but I also think, unfortunately, it's an own goal. But Slovakia's Robert Mack basically just diced two Polish defenders, nutmegged one of them, took it around the end line, and then deflected it off one defender, and then off the post and off of Szczesny's back into the net. I am from far long ago Polish, so I was hoping that this tournament was going to be the. It did not go well from the start. They have a tough road to hoe with Spain and Sweden ahead. It's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. Today's action was not great for any of my predictions overall. You were on the radio this weekend.
I was,
correct?
yes. I was
talking about Euros. What station and what show are you on?
It was called the Gut Check on 910. I think ESPN 910 The Fan. And I think it's based out of Richmond. I don't know if the guy actually knew I was from Richmond, but it was fun. I got to talk a little bit of Euro. I'm not sure if you can find the show.
Did you mention our show name in there at all?
I did mention our show. Yeah, we got dropped twice, front and back end, so people can know where to listen to us if they were listening back.
If you're listening from that, hello.
Yes,
welcome.
I was more comfortable with the U.S. talk than I was maybe the Euro talk. I was like trying
maybe,
but I still I thank them for having me on. He's a nice guy, and it was fun to be on the show for a bit and talk some soccer in the morning while watching. I think I was watching Wales and somebody, I can't remember who.
Producer Brian is giving us the off stage hook here because of the segment 2 that we have to tap on at the end of this episode.
Okay,
so let's roll through the rest of this real quick.
Roll through the rest. Junior Moreno playing for Venezuela. Multiple COVID cases obviously going on that team, an outbreak. I hope he is vaccinated. That's all I have to say. I hope that he has received his vaccination. I think he has.
Yeah, I think he has too. Get those shots down there, man. Joe,
Yeah.
send these like the difference between the attendance in the Euros and the empty stadiums in the Copa are a bummer. Get blanket South America with shots. Pretend that there is a natural resource you want to expropriate from South America as its traditional air history, and instead drop from helicopters and airplanes the shots so they can get the also not die first and foremost, but then secondarily allow fans to go see these games. And then the MLS All-Star Game, the foreseen has come to pass. Liga MX will be playing MLS All-Stars. There's been so much talk about they're just condensing a league and making it be a league, like having these two leagues combined. I think there was a statement by somebody, I don't know if it was the head of FIFA, that was saying like this would be the best league in the world if they formed this. I think is what they said, one of the best leagues or the best league in the world. We'll see what happens there. I think it'll be exciting. It's better than like having an out of season big team come play. We'll see. I think it'll be exciting. And I think the one real question we had from this was, Ted would like to see the return of the skills challenge, which yes. I agree. Let's do that. Hardest shot competition.
I tried to Google it and it did come up. So I hope it does come back. I don't know how COVID plays a role in that, but yes, please come back. The skills competition was a heck of a lot of fun when they did it in what feels like a decade ago in 2019. I think Wayne Rooney was a part of that, which was kind of fun.
Yes, he was.
Definitely bring that back.
And then the last thing we wanted to tie it back into DC. Who is our vote for DC's MLS All-Star rep? If it ended right now today, my call is Adrian Perez, based on like telling you how the team is doing right now. It's very diffuse and in its positives. There isn't like one player that's really going crazy. Moses Nyman probably another one, but are one of those your pick as well?
It's probably Adrian Perez, and I don't know if first of all, no DC player right now, unless they sign another Wayne Rooney, is going to make that All-Star team, because
that's true.
It is a awful voting contest, and literally it's like the best players who have the best seasons never make the All-Star team. There's always like 3 players that are left off, and then like they're like brought on as like either commissioner picks or they're brought on as other picks. That also game coming up, guys. I think that's going to do it for this live show. We'll be back with actual DC United games to talk about, so that'll be fun. I'll have a view from Audi Field, so I'll probably have all kinds of fun things to say, guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you're listening to the live show, this is it. If you're listening on the podcast, stick around. We got an interview with Julian Gressel coming up, so you definitely want to check that out. And we will catch you guys on
Thursday.
Vamos.